Hi creative friends! Today I'm going to show you how you can take inexpensive Dollar Tree plastic folders and turn them into beautiful custom earrings that match your style and don't break your budget at all either. So I'm going to show you how you can use it with your Explore Air 2 or your Cricut Maker. So either machine is perfect for making these, and if you've never played around with working with custom materials, this is a tutorial for you. So let's get started. Let's talk about what tools and supplies you want for this project. So I have a starter kit that's all jewelry pieces, but basically what you'll want is a set of jump rings as well as some basic ear hooks. So it doesn't require a lot of tools or pieces for this. You can spend probably right around the $4 mark if you use coupons at a place like Michael's or Joann's. And just getting jump rings and a little ear hooks for that. So that's the first thing. You'll definitely want a scraper tool to work with. I also recommend trying out some of Cricut's holographic foil. I think this is really awesome to play around with. So if you want something like that's a little bit more fun, this is a great one. You can also use something like permanent vinyl. In fact, I recommend using permanent vinyl if you're working with plastic. It'll give you a better adhesion because it's got a stronger surface to work with. The pair that I made was using the holographic vinyl, but feel free to experiment a little bit. I'm also using painter's tape. These are the Dollar Tree file folders. They're called pocket folders, and I love these because they give you a lot of material to work with. They're nice and thin to cut, and they also have some pre-made designs. So if you don't feel like adding vinyl to them, they're already pretty cute to work with, so it just saves you a step. Plus it's very inexpensive. And a Cricut mat. I'm going to be using the standard grip mat along with the tape to keep everything in place. We'll also be using the standard blade that comes with the machine, which is the fine point blade. If you'd like to create this project, what you'll want to do is click on the link inside the description box. It'll take you directly to this project inside Cricut Design Space. And the neat thing about using a pre-made project is it's very quick and easy to start creating. So if you're intimidated by making earrings, this is a great way to start out with them. What we're going to do is click on the earrings themselves, and if you want to adjust the sizing, there's a little arrow on the corner here, and you can drag and move them in or out just depending on the sizing that you would like. So when you're working on these, you'll notice that there's two different sets here, and what we're doing is they're double layered earrings. So the black on this one is going to represent the plastic material that we're going to be using, the plastic file folders, and the kind of purpley blue here will be representing the holographic vinyl that we're going to add. So this is basically just going to lay on top of the project. So we're going to be cutting out the two different sets of them. And once we have figured out exactly the sizing that we want, we'll go ahead and click on Make It. We're going to select Browse All Materials. So for one set, we're going to be using the plastic folders, and for the other set is going to be the holographic one. So for each section, we'll change out the materials. So I'm going to select Browse All Materials, and I'm going to type in plastic. Oops. And there's some different options that we can choose. I'm going to choose plastic packaging. And then once you've chosen plastic packaging, you can choose material settings. This is a neat feature inside the machine, is you can take a look at the settings by the materials. So I'm going to go where it says plastic. And this tells me the pressure setting it's on, how many times it's making a pass, and which blade it's going to use. So we're going to be using the standard fine point blade with this one. I've pre-tested this, and a 2 times cut will work and it'll get through it, but you will have to roll the pieces around, and I think that's just a lot more work than we need. It's not as clean of a cut as I would prefer. So I'm going to click on Edit, and I'm going to adjust this to go up probably, I would say, 3 times, maybe even 4 times, so we get a better result, and click Save. And then we can go back up to the top here. And then I'm going to select the materials again. We'll choose the plastic packaging. I'm going to click Done. I'm going to select the pressure to more because I want to make sure this has a little bit more pressure than it currently has. So I think another pass will help make sure that it's nice and clean, and also a little bit more pressure will make sure that it goes through to where we're working on. So I'm going to select that, and it's ready to go. I'm going to load the material in for this one. And then when we're ready to cut the next one, we'll make sure to set this to the foil that we're using. We're using holographic foil. You can definitely use something like permanent vinyl, and permanent vinyl might work a little bit better. For this example, I'm testing this on the Explore Air 2. Make sure that you set the dial on your machine to custom. In fact, if you leave it on the custom setting, it's great because you can go ahead and select which material you're using each time, and you don't have to remember to adjust the dial later. So let's go ahead and we're going to click Browse All Materials. What it does is bring up a list of materials. As we know, the Explore Air 2 cuts 100 different materials versus the 300 that the Maker cuts. So the Maker already automatically has the settings in the system for working with plastic packaging. We don't have that inside the Explore Air 2, but I know that you can cut this with the fine point blade using the Maker. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a custom setting. So how do you create a custom setting? If you're looking through browsing all materials, you can scroll all the way to the bottom. It'll bring up a little section here where you can click on material settings, and you can go and choose, you can edit something that's already there, or you can add a brand new material. And this is what I would recommend. So I'm going to type in file folder, and then we're going to go ahead and click save. And this will let us edit all of the settings for this one. So for the pressure for this one, on the Maker, it's set to 314. I did add a little bit of pressure when I used the Maker for this, so I'm going to make this one just a little bit higher. I'm going to set it to 320, and we know the cap right here is 350, so 320 should be fine. Now we can adjust how many times it's going to cut our material. So we're going to set it to 3 times here, and it's going to use the fine point blade. Let's click save. And now we can choose the file folder setting here when we're ready to select materials. So we're going to go in and choose which material, and we'll just type in file. And here's the one that we created. You can always favorite it if you want to keep it for later, add a little star there. And now we can go ahead and make sure we could adjust the pressure if we needed to. If we wanted to keep it at the same setting that the Maker is on, which is 314, we can do that. I'm going to set this as the default because I added more pressure to the last one that I did. So make sure we have the fine point blade loaded in here, and let's go ahead and run a test cut on this and see and make sure that this cuts perfectly on the Explore Air 2 as well. It did look like it cut through really well, and it didn't cut through so much that it left any impressions on the mat, which is great. So this is the exact pressure that we want when we're using the Explore Air 2, and it looks like all of the pieces are popping right out. So this is exactly the settings we'll use, and this should work out great for you too, hopefully. Now that we've tested it on the Explore Air 2, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make it. You can make it the same using both machines, following the steps that I show you next. For the first step for this, I'm going to take the pocket folder and I'm just going to cut this in half. So I want to make sure that I have the maximum amount of usable space on this one, so that way I can really just get the most use out of it. And we are going to have to make sure that we avoid these sections that have the little cutouts in there. So we could always go through and cut those ones out as well and just make sure to keep that one straight. Or you can just leave it and put it along the edges of where you're working. So I'm just going to take that. Since these have little pockets, also make sure that you cut off the extra pockets on there so it doesn't interfere with the cutting of your design. And you can use these for other earrings later, which is the neat thing. Because this is the same type of material, this would work well for another set of earrings. Now all I'm going to do is remove the sticker from this one. It's an easy peel label, so hopefully this comes off pretty easily. I'm going to take this mat, I'm going to reload the mat here. Apply this to the mat, and we'll also apply tape around the mat. Just about 1/4 of the way in, 1/4 of an inch in, so it doesn't interfere with our design. So we have our material loaded, and let's add it to our machine here. So we have our material here ready to go and our machine ready to go. We're going to be using the fine point blade. So we're just going to make sure that we load it in here using the arrow button. We'll press the Cricut symbol to start. Ready to unload it. So here is our first layer. We're going to go ahead and remove this from the mat. I'm going to untape all of this from the top layer. Now we can unload this from the mat by flipping this over, and we'll hold our project with one hand and roll this off. So as you can tell, it definitely took off of that. So that one's out of the way. Now you can take a spatula tool and you can use your spatula to lift this one up off the mat. Just put a little edge underneath it here. And the neat thing is, because these are so lightweight, they're very flexible, but also kind of durable. So having these plastic ones. So these are ready to go. All we have to do is cut the next step. If we want to change up how these look, we can add some holographic foil to them. So let's cut out the holographic foil. We'll just get our mat ready. I think for the best results, you will definitely want to use something like permanent vinyl. I do find it a little trickier to work with holographic foil, but I really love the look of them, which is why I use the holographic foil to start with. What I'm doing is I'm just adhering it to the top, and then I'm going to make sure there's no bubbles, and then I'll continue to roll the rest of this roll towards the bottom. This works great if you're doing tons of them, if you're working on quite a few earrings at the same time. I recommend doing it this way. Duplicate your earrings so that you're making a whole sheet at a time and you get the best value for your project that way. Make sure before you load your project in that you select that you're using holographic vinyl for your material, so that way you get a nice clean cut and it's not going to cut too deeply. I chose premium vinyl holographic for my material. Ready to unload. When you're ready to unload your material, you're just going to flip your mat over and hold onto your material and just roll your mat away. And if you didn't pre-cut a smaller section to work with, like me, where you're just going to use one section, you can just cut away the excess here. And then save this for another project. If you're making a ton of earrings at once, this is the better idea, is to use a full sheet and just make a ton at one time. So if you're ready to lead your project, what I recommend is just cutting them into individual sections here. Makes it a lot easier to only work on one small section at a time. With holographic foil, sometimes it can be difficult to see exactly where you cut, so you're going to take the light and make sure you keep an eye on where the cut lines are on this. So we'll start on a corner here, and the nice thing about this is you can definitely see where it separates from the backing of the paper here, because it is such a difference in the colors. So once you have the backing separated from this, you're going to just peel it away from your design, working carefully. And that will be your little leftover piece there. And then you'll just weed out the middle section. So weeding is just removing the extra pieces from it. So we'll kind of roll this design a little bit, and it'll help the sections to pop up that we need to remove. So we're removing the middle section from this. And now essentially we have a sticker that we can use to apply to our earrings, so it gives it a completely different look. So if you're not a fan of, maybe the designs or solid colors that are part of the current earrings, the plastic, you can change it up by adding this piece to it. So let's go ahead and finish weeding out the rest of these. where you'll break out your transfer tape, and transfer tape is what you use. It's basically a sticker that you use to transfer your design from the original backing onto the item that you want to place it on. So we're going to cut a piece of transfer tape that will fit these, and luckily I have a little leftover piece here that's just the right size to use for this project. And the cool thing about using transfer tape is it's completely reusable, so it's very, very sticky, and you can definitely get this many uses out of it. So I'm going to remove the sticker on this one. It's got a grid design, so it makes it a little bit easier to line up your projects, and we'll just remove the backing from the sticker. So when you're ready to apply your sticker, you'll take your decal that you've created, you'll take your transfer tape, and you're going to place this over the top. I have a hold of it from both sides here, and I'm just going to place this right over the center, and I'm going to lay this down slowly on both sides. We're going to break out our scraper tool, and we're going to use it to adhere the top piece of tape to this. So we're just going to go over this in a couple different directions, making sure that there's no bubbles on this. So I'm just going to go over this, and once it's adhered, then we can remove the backing from it. Once you feel like this is pretty adhered, we're going to take this from our mat, we're going to flip this over, and we're going to continue doing the same thing along the back. This is just an extra step to make sure that it's adhered perfectly to the front, and that way it makes it a lot easier. It saves you the trouble of really struggling with making sure that this is applied well. I find that it really makes a difference in making sure that it's adhered completely across it. So once you get that done, you can peel back the sticker, and it should be stuck to the tape itself. If it's not, you can lay this back down and you can work on adhering it some more. So we're going to just continue to peel this off. And now when you flip it over, you can see that the design is stuck to our tape here. Now we're going to find the corresponding piece that it belongs to. So as you can see, when we cut this, they're two separate sizes. So there are two separate sizes here. Let's make sure that we're going to apply this to the right size. So this is definitely not the larger size. This is a smaller size. So we're going to move this one out of the way, and we're going to make sure that we line this up and center it using some pieces as the guide marks here. So we're going to use the little hanger hole as our guide mark here, and we're not going to apply it straight down. Sometimes it's easier if you work from one section to the other using the guide mark. So I'm just going to apply it here using the little hole at the top as our guide, and then just slowly roll this down towards the bottom. So that's all you have to do, and we're going to follow the same process as we did to get this decal to apply to our sticker tape, our transfer tape, but we want this to apply to our plastic sheeting. So we're going to do the same thing, and we're trying to make sure that there's no air bubbles. So we're just going to work in one direction, and then we're going to continue working our way downwards. And when you get done doing it one direction, it's okay to switch up and go the other way, or go sideways as well. You just want to make sure that you are working at it from multiple angles, so that way it gets the best results for adhering to your project. And when you feel pretty confident about the results here, you can pull back the sheeting, and then you can take a look at your earring. So there you can see it's fully applied, and you don't need to seal it or anything because this is plastic and you have a vinyl coating on the top. So this should be pretty weather resistant, I would say. Probably better than most earrings would be. So I think this turns out really well, and it gives you such a pretty finish to it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this to the rest of the earrings pieces, so that way you can see how they turn out, and we'll assemble it together with the jewelry findings. So now we have all of our pieces covered here, and what we're going to do is break into our little mini jump rings here, and also our earring hooks. So I'm going to pull some of those out so that way we can start layering these pieces together. Let's talk about parts that you use for jewelry. So these are the little fish hook earrings. They're very standard. As you can see, the front on them, if you hold it this way, the loops are actually sideways. So it makes it that the earring tends to want to turn unless you use a jump ring here to make it face the opposite direction. So if you have something like a French hook, it will make it so that the earrings automatically turn towards the front. So that's an option if you don't want to have to do this step and you want to give it a nice clean finish look, you can do that. In this case, we can get around this by using the little mini jump rings, and we can attach it to this piece here so that way this moves front facing here and it makes it face a little bit nicer on your earring. So I'm going to open these ones up using my little plier, and I'm just going to run this right through here and then close this one back up. And what this does is it gets around the part where it's an issue for the earring to turn sideways. So this is just a kind of a hack that helps you to make sure the earrings float a little bit more freely. So I'm going to do that for the next one, and I'm using 2 of these earrings and then 2 of these jump rings just to make sure that this faces the front, and then I'm going to use jump rings for attaching the earrings as well. I'm just opening this one up. I'm going to attach it to the other earring here along the bottom. And then I'm going to close it with my tool here. So now that you have your first jump ring attached to your earrings, you're going to take a larger jump ring and we're going to open this one up. If you have a size that's kind of a better intermediate between these two, you can always use it, but this is the one that I have that will clear the edges for this one. So we made 4 sets of earrings here. 2 are in the smaller size and 2 are in the larger size. So we're going to take the pieces that are one smaller and one larger, and we're going to take them and layer them together with the smaller piece on top and then the larger piece on the bottom. So they both have little holes here. And we're going to take our open jump ring and run it through the top. So they're hanging freely. You can see that they're just hanging there. We can take our earring and we can run it through this jump ring that's right there. And what we'll do is close this one up. And there's so many options you can take to customize this. Maybe instead of doing it this way, you add beads, you use French hooks, whatever you like. But this is a really quick and easy way to create a pair of earrings, and it doesn't require a lot of technical skills with jewelry making. So this is just my favorite version of doing this just because it's so quick and easy. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're just going to open this jump ring up. And make sure that the shorter, smaller piece is layered on the front. We'll run this in and then run this through the jump ring that's right here. That way it can float freely. And we'll close this one up. So now we've completed the steps for building your own pair of earrings, and there's so many different options that you can play around with, but this was the set that I made and had fun with wearing. I have another pair that I made a few years ago and I've been wearing them ever since, and you guys wanted to know how to make them, so I wanted to show you guys so that you can make your own too. So which one were your favorite pair of earrings? I think that there's so many different options that it's really difficult for me to choose. I kind of like that using Dollar Tree items makes it so affordable too. You can make them for yourself, you can make them for gifts for friends or family, and you can definitely make them for a business as well. So this is a great way to have materials and play around and have fun and not have it break your budget. If there was something that you want to see in a future video, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future content, and I'll see you guys later. I hope you're having a great day and that you're having fun being creative.